Where were you when Hurricane Agnes struck Maryland?
We had an old store, and the old store was on the other side of the street in the Oddfellows Hall. And the Oddfellows Hall is about a half a block up the hill from here. And it was across from the bakery. You know where the bakery is now? It was on the other side of the street. And we had a store that we opened in the fall of 1969. And I said, if it ever floods, it's going to come to our doorstep. And so in the Oddfellows Hall, there is the actual doorstep in our old store. And that's the level of the water when Agnes came through in '72. It stopped at our doorstep.
How severe was the destruction to the Ellicott City area?
Well, most of the buildings from that point down, which is about half a block, most of the buildings from that point down here in this level, almost all the first floors flooded. So it was a lot of water. I haven't seen it like that. I hope I don't see it like that again.
How much damage did Hurricane Agnes do to your shop?
Actually, at that time, we were the first shop not to get water because it actually stopped at our doorstep. But there's a shop next door that's 6 inches lower, and they got 6 inches of water. And my wife remembers them emptying file cabinets and trying to dry the papers off. And yeah. And then I remember people just, once the water did recede, they were just hauling furniture out the front sidewalk. They were just getting all the old damaged goods outside.
How did Hurricane Agnes affect your daily life, like after?
Well, once that happened, that was June 24th of '72. It sort of slowed the town down quite a bit, brought it to a halt, really. But that year was the bicentennial, and they were able to get the town back to celebrate the bicentennial, and that was in September. So in September, from June to September, it took quite a bit to recover and get the celebration back in the order and so on. Mm-hmm.
What was your initial reaction to the storm?
Oh, shock. It was like, what? Shock was a big, it was hard to deal with to some extent because cars were floating down the river. Cars were floating and hitting the silo. You know where the silos are? Things were coming down the river and hitting the silos. It washed out some of the bridge. In fact, this bridge was so badly damaged, there are still remnants of the side of the bridge in the river. It's still laying there. If you look over the edge that's a new bridge after '72. If you look over the edge, you can still see concrete blocks that were part of the old bridge. Still there.
What was your biggest surprise during the storm?
Just the amount of water and just the amount of damage. Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was quite severe.
Do you know another instance where there was a natural disaster as rare and real that destroyed any part of Maryland?
Well, there are other floods in this region. In fact, down on the railroad bridge, there are markers. You can see the markers, the different levels. The 1936 flood, the 1952, I don't remember the years actually, but there are about 4, 5, 6 major floods. And most of them have a mark down on the bridge next to the railroad station. And then there are other big fires too, like this building burned down. This building burned down in '99. Then above the bakery, that half block burned down. So besides floods, there are fires that occurred.
Was there anything that really scared you about Hurricane Agnes?
Not so much fear as just amazement as to the devastation. Yeah.
What's your most vivid memory from Hurricane Agnes?
Well, I don't know if you know Mrs. Bounds or not. She's the lady who has the country store. And I saw her son in a rowboat right out front. rolling in the water. And then the level of the water too, yeah. And her son and daughter were in a rowboat out there, and I'm thinking, what? And then I had a friend who died not in this river, but up in Harford County. He tried to save somebody, and he drowned. Same flood. You know, he jumped in. He thought, oh, I can get them, and he perished.
How was your shop affected by?
Well, as I say, we didn't have water. I mean, the water stopped our doorstep, but the business, the commerce stopped for at least a month and a half.
Have you used your experience from Hurricane Agnes to help others so that they're more prepared for if another natural
Well, that's a
disaster
good
like this?
question. I'm not sure that I've ever helped prepare other people, but I told others about the storm. Yeah.
What did people you know have to say about Hurricane Agnes?
Just other people relating what like there's a guy who had an antique shop. He was out of electricity, and he was flooded the first floor, and what happened to them in similar circumstance, similar shops that were damaged.
What was the main effect Hurricane Agnes had on society?
I think it forced them to rethink how to prepare for those types of things, but I'm not sure we're ever going to be ready.
Who helped to, who do you think helped the most with relief efforts to try and rebuild?
I think the county came together. The police department helped out, the fire department, fire and rescue helped out. A lot of the county agencies, I think Howard County really tried hard to get itself back on its feet. I think the county had a number of different agencies that worked together to get it back together. And then a lot of public volunteers helped out, I'm pretty sure.
How long? Oh, you already said that. Did you see people spending differently after Hurricane Agnes?
Well, there's a thing called cabin fever. After they recovered, then I believe there was an attempt to get back to what we call normal situation, and I think there was a lot of people that were. I don't think it really slowed the spending down. I think it's just it did initially, but then there was a recovery period.
What did you learn about the economy after Hurricane Agnes?
I'm not sure that I learned that much. Well, we have come back since then. We closed that store that we had on the other side, and then we opened the other store. So in other words, I think there is an attempt to continue. There's the what?
Resilient.
Resilient. Yes, coming back, and because we had the other store, and then we fortunately 2 years later opened this store.
What was the government's reaction to the economic damage caused by Hurricane Agnes?
Well, there were relief agencies that stepped in. I remember up by the old post office, there was a desk out front, and people that were really in severe situations, almost an immediate relief effort by the federal government. I'm not sure if it was the state government or federal government, but I remember there was a desk up there where people could come up and say, hey, I lost this, and this, and then they tried to give small, almost like small business loans to recover.
How greatly did Hurricane Agnes affect the economy?
Well, on an immediate basis, it was devastating, but then the recovery was, I would say the recovery was within a month and a half or something like that.
How much money did Hurricane Agnes cost you?
Well, it cost us the commerce over the next month and a half, 2 months, which was next to nothing. So, it's thousands of dollars,
Did you notice that any shops changed their prices afterwards to try and get people to come back in?
I didn't notice that, but I noticed that there are some shops that just didn't come back. There were some shops that did not come back. Like, I don't remember the names of them. There were some across the street that didn't come back. Reds didn't come back. There were different shops that did not come back.
Did you have to put off any of your bills because of the loss of money?
I probably did, but I don't recall that. I probably did, but I don't recall that.
After Hurricane Agnes, did did people seem to spend more or less?
I don't know that it was more or less, but I think there was an effort to recover, to get back to normalcy. Yeah. Mm-hmm.